And when the students came back, they heard the shower running. So they went in and checked, and there was Father Lewis. But because the hot water had been pouring on him for weeks and weeks and weeks, he was like melted. Hello, I am Brother Francisco Whitaker, and this is All Good in the Brotherhood. Since it's Halloween time, I thought I might make a video sharing some scary, horrifying, tragic stories of St. Vincent Archabbey from our history. Buckle up, because some of these are crazy. Now, the names I'll be using for these stories aren't necessarily the real names of all these monks, because some of them I legitimately don't know, and some just to protect their privacy. Some of the names are real, some of them aren't. But even if we're using fake names, these stories are 100% true. So if you're excited, before we get into it, make sure you like this video, subscribe to our channel, and ring that notification bell so you never miss any awesome All Good in the Brotherhood content. Okay, so let's get into these stories. I'm going to present these stories in stages, starting from maybe least intense to most horrifying. All right, so first, Brother Michael. Brother Michael lived in the mid to early 1900s. He worked with the high school students when St. Vincent ran a high school here. Before we just had a college, we also ran a high school. So he was a teacher and a dorm moderator for the high school kids. Well, during the winters, a lot of them would go down ice skating on our lake. And there was a particularly cold winter, so as usual, they went down to ice skate and to play hockey. Well, they had all been playing for several hours, and it was finally time for them to go back to studies, go back to do some prayer. Well, one of the kids had left his hockey stick on the ice, so after they cleared, Brother Michael said, "Oh, I'm gonna go get that hockey stick for you guys. I'll be right back." He skates over, grabs the hockey stick, and as he turns around, he falls into the water. Well, of course, the kids are terrified and scrambling, and some of them go call for help. Some of them skate over, but they're, what are they going to do? They try to save him, but unfortunately, before they could get to him, Brother Michael had frozen and drowned. Well, that was definitely a hit to the whole community because he was one of the most loved and respected young monks, and a lot of people saw a very bright future for him, but it was taken away. So, story number 2, Brother Anthony. Brother Anthony was also a young, vibrant monk. This took place in the late 90s. He's a vibrant monk, very passionate about his monasticism. He was very loved by the whole community. He had lots of outreach mission. He worked very much with the poor and the homeless. He was loved by the broader community, not just the monastery. Well, one day, the community was having a meeting discussing the practicalities of wearing the habit. And some monks were saying, other communities are moving away from wearing it all the time. And some were saying, no, we need to keep with our tradition of wearing it at all times. And so there was this back and forth discussion. Well, finally, Brother Anthony stands up and is not having it. He's saying, we are monks. We have a tradition of wearing the habit. If we let it go, what's going to happen next? We might lose prayer. We might lose the community life, the mission we have. If we don't look like monks, what makes you think we're all going to act like them? He was very definitive, and he's saying, it is God's will. It's God's will that we wear our habits. So he pronounces this statement, calls the monks to a higher level of representation, a higher level of commitment in their monasticism. He says, God desires us to wear the habit. He sits down, falls over dead. Well, it found later that an artery burst. He had a condition, very thin arteries, and one of them burst in his excitement and in his adrenaline. It was too much for him. So he made his statement, sat down, and died. And one of the monks, who was actually my novice master, Father Joe, said he was sitting right behind him. He saw him sit down, keel over dead, and his first thought was, well, it must obviously be God's will. What an exclamation point to add to a declarative statement to hit the guy. Dead. Others thought, oh, no, this is God's way of saying he doesn't want us to wear habits, because as soon as a monk makes a definitive statement on it, God strikes him dead. Well, we all do keep our habits. We didn't lose that custom, but it really wasn't because of Brother Anthony. the monks decided that it was best for us to continue to hold on to our traditions. But because of his statement and his love for the community, he's actually, many people around are trying to open up his cause for canonization. I don't know if that will necessarily happen, but what a scenario, what a time, what a statement to make, that declaring God's will and then falling over dead. Our third story is about Father James. Things are starting to get a little darker, a little bit scarier, a little bit rougher. Father James was a local hospital chaplain. There are many hospitals around St. Vincent, and the monks are responsible for being the full-time chaplains. Well, Father James was often on night calls. He would go out and anoint the sick late at night, or he would be on late-night rotations at the hospital at all hours of the day. Well, because of that, the whole community wasn't accustomed to seeing him regularly. Because if his hours were weird and he was often gone in the late and early mornings, he wasn't as frequently present at community prayer because his mission and his sacramental ministries called him away. Well, because of that, when they didn't see him for a day or two, that was pretty normal. People just figured, okay, yeah, he was late at the hospital, came back, slept for a couple more hours in the day, and then had to go back to the hospital to anoint someone else. Well, one day, the monks get a call from the hospital, and they says, we've been trying to reach out to Father James for several days. We've been paging him, calling him. We haven't gotten a hold of him at all. Is he on vacation? We say, no, he's not on vacation. He should be at the hospital. Is he not there? We haven't seen him in days. How many days? 3, maybe 4? Oh no. Well, now the monk's really worried. And another monk comments when he hears about this and says, well, there's been a smell coming from Father James's room for the last day or so, but I just thought maybe he left some food in there. Well, they go to his room, knock, no answer. Knock again, nothing. So timidly, they open Father James's cell, look inside. He's dead, on the floor. Died of a heart attack while sitting in his chair. And because it'd been so many days, things were starting to naturally decompose. So it was a very quick funeral rite that day. How unfortunate that it happened that way. Because of his devotion to his ministry, the monks didn't realize that he had already been dead for 4 days. This next story is definitely very tragic. Every year for Shrove Tuesday, the day before Ash Wednesday, the monks have a big feast. And we actually do it at a place off campus called the Grove. It's this center that's associated with our Basilica Parish. It's kind of this larger dining hall. And we go there because we can decorate it more and more lights. There's bigger tables so we can have more food and we can have games, which we obviously shouldn't and can't do in our own monastery refectory. So we go up there. It's actually only like a mile off of campus. Most of us walk there. Well, there was one monk, Father Christopher, and he had driven there because of where he had been, and he was a little bit older, so he decided, it's better to drive. Well, when he finally came back, it was dark and rainy, and he was driving, and he didn't have great vision, so he was, having trouble seeing the road. So as he's driving down the road, rainy, wet, dark, all of a sudden, he gets hit with a heart attack, and he just veers off the road. Well, unfortunately, if he had driven off any other place in the road, he would have just hit an embankment or rolled up onto a hill. Well, where he happened to veer off was right off a bridge into a creek. As he hit the guardrail, the car flipped and went upside down and landed upside down in the water. Well, the creek wasn't very deep, but it was just shallow enough that with his window open, the water rose just above his mouth and nose. And he wouldn't have actually died from the heart attack when they determined later, but he actually did die of drowning. So he drowned in like a foot of water, upside down. And because it was dark, the monks didn't see it happen. He had driven off at a time where there wasn't many monks left, so by the time the rest had gone by, he had gone off the side of the road and no one noticed. It was the next day before someone found him upside down, dead, flipped in the creek. Story number 5, Brother Luke. This one gets gritty. Here at St. Vincent, we have a grist mill, a place where over the years, farmers would come, bring their grain, their oats, their crops, their wheat, and the monks would grind it for them for a share in the wheat to make then bread for ourselves and for the community. And this grist mill has been here for over 150 years. And we have the same millstone that we've had since the beginning. And this grist mill actually still functions. If you come to St. Vincent today, you can see the grist mill and its operating processes, and you can taste some of the bread that we make from our flour. Well, back in the day, Brother Luke was the head miller, and he was great at his job. He was always very thorough. He was always very meticulous to make sure that the wheel was functioning properly, that the grain was ground to high percentage yield. Great worker. So, working in the grist mill is a place that monks generally wouldn't wear their habits, right? Because of all the flour going everywhere, it gets the monks' habit dirty, and just with all the machines going on, the flapping and the extra frill of the habit is just not a practical place to be wearing your habit. So Brother Luke normally didn't. Well, one day he was in a particular rush and needed to get the flour moving and the millstone going so that the process could go. Well, he decided, you know what, I don't have time to take my habit. I'm just going to get this first round started, get the mill running, get the gears moving. And once that goes, then, I'll take out my habit and clean up. Well, so he's shifting gears, turning on the grist mill. Well, he doesn't notice because he didn't tuck his scapular in, which is the extra part of the habit that's separate from the main body, the tunic, got caught in the gears. So he turns it on, and his habit starts getting wound into the gears. Well, he's trying to take it off, but he can't because it's too taut. Well, he starts getting pulled closer and closer and closer and closer to the millstone and to the gears that grind up the flour. Well, unfortunately, he didn't escape in time and he got sucked in. And he got smashed and ground just like the flour. Oh, not a pretty sight. Well, suffice it to say that monks are now forbidden from wearing their habits when they work in the grist mill because of Brother Luke. Next, we have Brother Paul. Brother Paul was a farmer, and he worked in the fields when we grew crops on a large scale here at St. Vincent. We were also a farming community at one point, so he was one of the main farmers. Well, one day, he decided, okay, time to till the field, time to plow it, get it ready for the crops. So he goes, gets the tractor, sets up the plow, he's making his passes, one pass, another pass. Well, he started, experiencing some uncomfortability. He had expressed to someone earlier that day that he wasn't necessarily feeling very well, and they said, maybe you should take the day off. He says, I can't take the day off. It's planting season. We don't take a day off in farming. The weather doesn't take a day off. We can't either. So he's plowing. He's still feeling this discomfort. Maybe he thinks, maybe I should get some water. So he stops, gets a glass of water, feels a little bit better, so he keeps on plowing. Well, as has been a common theme in a lot of these stories, Brother Paul has a heart attack. Well, as he's driving his tractor, heart attack hits him and he falls over. Well, he hits the gears in full drive as he falls out. And because this is in the 1900s, there's no automatic shutoff when someone falls out of the seat. So the tractor keeps on plowing forward with the plow behind it. So Brother Paul falls on the ground, and before he can get back up and recover himself, the blades of the plow hit him and, cut off his head. And cut him to pieces. So that's how they found him, cut up, mangled, and the tractor, luckily, ended up running into a tree or something and not causing any more harm. But that was a rough day for the monastery, having to take care of and bury Brother Paul. All right, time to our last story, Father Louis. This one might take the cake in creepy and disturbing. So, Father was a dorm moderator. Back in the day, monks were the RAs, the dorm monitors for the college students. We used to have St. Vincent as an all-boys, only boys school before it became co-ed in the 80s. So, Father Louis was one of those dorm moderators. Well, it came time for Christmas break, so all the college students leave. Father Lewis still there. So he getting ready for prayer, and he was planning on, since it's Christmas break, leaving for a little while to go visit some friends and some family. So the monks weren't really expecting him to be at prayer because they knew he was going to be on vacation, and none of the students were there, so no one else was in the hall. So he goes, gets ready to pack up, gets his stuff together, and decides he wants to take a quick shower before he heads out. So gets in the shower. This is, December, January, so it's very cold outside, so turns on the nice hot water. He's in the shower. Well, then, as has been the custom with a lot of these monks, he has a heart attack. Well, as he falls, he slips and also hits his head. And now he's out cold and with a heart attack on the shower floor. Well, he died there in the shower. But the horrifying thing about this, because the students were gone and he was ready to go abroad on vacation, no one was expecting to see him. No one was looking for him. And it was 2 weeks before he was found, because they thought he had gone abroad. No one was looking for him. And when the students came back, they heard the shower running. So they went in and checked, and there was Father Lewis. But because the hot water had been pouring on him for weeks and weeks and weeks, he was like melted and skin had clogged the drain, and so water was everywhere. That bathroom has been closed permanently, and no one has been able to go back in since. Students still live in that dorm, but some say they feel like they can still hear Father Lewis's footsteps coming down the hall at night. So, those are some creepy, scary stories of St. Vincent. If you thought those were enjoyable or terrifying, leave a comment below on what you thought. We'd love to hear your reactions. If you want to hear other stories about really hilarious, funny times at St. Vincent, you can check out this video here where I talk about some of the fun things that have happened at St. Vincent since I've been here. And if you want to check out some awesome podcast episodes that we have, you should really do that, and you can check those out here. So, thank you for joining me. I'm Brother Francisco. Have a wonderful day. God bless.